When you want to select a portion of your image in Photoshop, you can use one of the many selection tools in order to select objects such as these balloons or the sky. And you use selection tools because these objects really aren't objects at all, but rather many pixels that you are tracing around. Let's take a closer look. In the Navigator palette, I'm going to zoom in and pan on up to the balloon, and you can see that the balloon is comprised of many pixels, which look like squares of color. And again, you're using different selection tools in order to select a logical area around this balloon so that you'll be able to affect it. Let's go back to the Navigator and change the zoom to 100% so that we can see everything. And we're going to focus on the magic wand. The magic wand will select based on color. And then when I click on the sky, I'm going to get a lot of the sky because most of it is the same color or very similar in color. However, some of it's a little too dark or a little too light, so we need to discover some strategies in order to select the entire sky. One strategy is in the Options palette where it shows the tolerance of 32, which is the default. By increasing the tolerance, let's say to 100, you actually can get more pixels with one click. And here we go, we see a lot more pixels. The dark pixels are selected, the light pixels are selected, but if we take a closer look, let's check here at this balloon, we're going to notice that the blue area of the balloon got selected as well. So for this particular image, the strategy of increasing the tolerance really isn't a good one. So we're going to try a different strategy. Let's go back to the select menu and deselect, or keyboard shortcut you'll notice right here is Control D. On the Mac it would be Command D. We will deselect, and we're going to change the tolerance back to 32. You know, I could just type in 32, or I could even take my mouse and slide it back. But over here there's an icon that shows me the active tool, and when I right click, or on the Mac that would be Control click, we can reset the tool to all the default settings to when we first started. Okay, so we have the magic wand, we click on the sky, and let's take a closer look again at the Options palette. By default, each click is giving you a new selection. So for example, I click in different areas of the sky and I get a different selection. But I could change this to add to selection, subtract from selection, or intersect with selection. We're going to use add to selection. You take your mouse and you hover in the sky, and you'll notice the magic wand has a plus sign, which allows you to add more pixels to the selection area with just a click. And of course it's the magic wand, so it's selecting based on color. And this very quickly and effectively selects the entire sky. We'll notice that the balloon shape is still preserved, which is a great option. Now we use the mouse for selecting this, but we're going to try it again using keyboard shortcuts. You're going to discover that in Photoshop having some keyboard shortcuts, especially when you want to select, is really handy because you select quite often in Photoshop. Usually it takes more than one step to select and even more than one tool. So those shortcuts can really pay off down the road. So let's go back to select and deselect, or Control D, Command D. And we'll again reset the tools back to our default, and we'll select a portion of the sky. When you hover your mouse in the part of the sky and you hold down the Shift key, that magic wand has a plus sign indicating that you can click to add more pixels. If I let go of the Shift key, the magic wand returns to the default, meaning that if I were to click right now, I would get a new selection. Hold the Shift key, we can add more pixels. And again, the magic wand is selecting based on color and where the color changes. Incidentally, if I use the Alt key on the Mac, that would be the Option key, then I can click to deselect or subtract portion of the selection. You can see the subtract symbol. But we didn't really want to subtract that, so we're going to go into the History palette and undo that step. So we still have the sky selected. Once the sky is selected, we could affect it. For example, we could go to the Edit menu, we could choose Fill, Fill with Black, click on OK, and we get the very interesting effect by blacking out the sky. In fact, let's take a closer look by deselecting, and now you can really see the effect here. Let's try something just a little different, going back in history palette to the point where the sky is selected. And we want to change the balloons. With the magic wand, we were able to very quickly select the sky, and we can use the select menu to inverse that selection. So now the balloons are selected, which means they can be affected. Let's go back to edit, fill, black, click on OK. Go ahead and deselect that. Definitely a different effect, but also very intriguing as well. Well, one more thing we're going to try with the magic wand, and I'm going to go back in history palette and we'll go all the way back to CMYK balloons where we first started, so that we've erased all of those changes we've made. And we want to select this yellow balloon. Now you'll notice that because it's surrounded primarily by one color, that it'll be actually pretty easy to select with the magic wand. But we're first going to use this rectangular marquee tool to narrow down the selection area. And then we'll come back to the magic wand, and we hover in the magic wand, and we get the Alt, or of course the Mac option. Then we have that subtract symbol, and we can subtract those pixels from the selection area. And now you're going to see a selection area that looks like the size of that balloon. Oh, and just for fun, we could go to the layer menu, make a new layer via copy, and that's going to create a copy of those pixels that were selected. So on the move tool, I can move that copy somewhere else. So these are just a few examples of how you can use selection tools, specifically the magic wand, to select a portion of your image so that you'll be able to edit it.